are entering the Take-Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host and the managing editor of TheTakeUp.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Today we are processing Deliverance. That is Katharine Coldiron's pick for our cinema speculation program. She's here with us the entire time, and first we're going to do Now Showing, where we're going to talk a wee little bit of Barbenheimer and a few other films. After our Deliverance talk, we're going to play a game. We're going to see exactly what Ned Beatty's known for, and then we'll have just one more thing. I saw Meg 2. I did see it. However, let me describe to the both of you. Hi, Katharine Coldiron is here.
I'm so happy to be here. I wanted to be able to kiss your ass a little bit, but there was no space for it. I'm so happy to be here, Josh. Thank you so much for having me.
I nearly forgot. I'm like, we warmed up just a little bit, and I'm like, oh, old Katharine. Katharine, you've written several books. Ceremonials, Plan 9 from Outer Space, compendium on that, and then Junk Film. And then, of course, your writings over NPR, Washington Post, and you're currently managing editor of X-Ray Lit magazine, right?
Correct. All of that is true.
Very good. Well, thank you for, really slumming it. The Take-Up.
Yeah.
See, I don't feel it that way because it was the dearest ambition of my life to be a film critic when I was a teenager, and that never materialized. So the fact that you guys, get posted by Rotten Tomatoes, it's like, oh, you're letting me into your club. This is so cool.
Well, welcome to the club. It's a club. Oh, I won't say that Woody Allen joke. Never mind. Anyway. Oh, okay. So, I did see Meg 2 after sort of watching the Meg, more agreeing with Andrew. Katharine, you're more of a fan of the Meg, right?
I am.
Okay. I sort of watched it, kinda, whatever. I didn't think it was like necessary viewing in order to go into Meg 2. Meg 2 looked like it was going to be bigger, brawnier, possibly stupider. I did this thing where there's a local theater that has something like 4DX. Do you know what 4DX is? It's not 3D, it's 4 dimensions, because you sit down in a seat and you are promised that this seat will move with the action, meaning it goes up and down. I don't know at what degrees it starts moving. It jerks
like
you
the Days of
around.
Thunder ride.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely that. And it has other things like smells. I didn't get smells during Meg 2. And it will like blow air and squirt in your face.
William Castle
Usually-
would have loved this.
I say usually you pay double for that kind of action, Cotton. That's
Well, you kind of did. And it definitely wasn't worth it. I had to get up and tell them, is it on? Like, I don't know. And then it took so long for someone to turn it on. I ended up using my clout for the very first time. I was like, I'm a film critic and I was going to review this, but now I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about the theater. That was so incensed. You know what? I had a really great time. And I think I had a really great time because I was more anticipating what was about to happen with my body rather than whatever was happening on the screen. You spend like half of the film underwater in the titular trench. And I don't know, like I was just moving sometimes when it would move. It didn't make a lot of logical sense. Sometimes people were just like getting punched in the face and then the chair would just go forward. And I'm like, no, punch me back. I want to get punched. So that's the experience that I had. I have no idea what happens in Meg 2. So this is a non-review of Meg 2. Go see it, I guess, in 4DX, but preemptively ask them to turn on the 4DX.
okay.
So now how do you feel about Rotten Tomato approval?
I mean, I think you're right. That was a non-review. And, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like, I'm glad it was fun.
It was fun.
And I mean, I guess there's something to the fact that you didn't notice the movie so much as whatever was going on in the seat that you were sitting in.
Yeah, I wonder how it would feel in something like a movie that I love, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, if they did something like that, like a film that had me at every millisecond, all of me into it. If you physically start taking me out of it, what does that affect?
Mm,
And
And
there's a
maybe
real,
better like coordination between, like, it sounds like this was really piss poor, and it's a really sad state when like a huge theater does worse than like a PlayStation controller and like coordinating vibration to what's going on the screen.
yes,
well,
accurate.
there is
Yes.
there is some sort of academic piece in me about the sensation of, being in the seat and what it is to be in the seat and a
Mm.
one level removed from what's happening on the screen. But maybe I
Postmodern.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, and
Um,
I'm not a huge like advocate of the audience experience, getting when you're sitting in a theater and people are reacting and coughing and cheering and doing whatever they do. Like I know a lot of major filmmakers are into that, including the one, Tarantino, but uh, like I think it's somewhat overrated. I wouldn't trade my experiences watching the Twilight movies at midnight with a bunch of, middle school girls. That was a ball, but also, I don't know that I would need to see the Meg 2 like that.
People are
I don't know
terrible
that I
generally, so I'm the same way. I'm not as wedded to the romanticism of a theatrical experience
Yeah.
because people are terrible, and I
Yeah.
don't like being around them
yeah.
when they're like misbehaving in the theater.
And I'm much more like Cartman in that way. Like if I could buy out an entire theater to see a movie, yeah, I would do that. Let's-
Well, speaking of buying out entire theaters, can we touch on Barbenheimer?
Yes.
You know what?
Should
Can
we?
we just let's be as brief as possible. I saw it in a Barbie in a critic screening where the public was invited, and what you're talking about, Catherine, did happen. People were cheering, specifically cheering at, and minor spoilers maybe, at America Ferrera's speech in it. I don't know if the film feels like it's trying to elicit that reaction. To me, it sort of does, but it is righteous in doing so.
Mhm.
I prefer. It, why do we have to compare them? I guess just because of what's happened culturally. But I prefer Barbie over Oppenheimer. I'm gay.
Well, okay. I didn't like Barbie. And when my friends asked me to talk about why, I said I didn't like it. And the main reason was that I didn't want to yuck anyone's yum because that's a big thing for me
Yeah.
as a human being. And because I spend most of my time with human beings who are not trained to analyze film the same way that I am, I'm just like, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. And particularly for a movie like this that everybody loves and I did not like, I'm just gonna shut up. But eventually someone pressed me and I got going and I didn't stop for 20 minutes. So I
I did.
I
I
didn't
We
did
want to do that
clock
now? I
watch
don't
just
know.
then.
know, but I didn't like it, and I liked Oppenheimer fine, but I've I think that Nolan is very culturally overrated. Artistically, I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a very fine director, one of the finer living directors, but um, I didn't think this was anywhere near as good as Dunkirk, even, which I thought
I
was
agree.
stunning. So because of that, I thought it was fine. And both movies, I was like, yeah, neither of these movies changed my life. And everyone in the world is talking about them as if they are life-changing movies. And I just can't get behind that.
Now, there's something culturally about the binary of these films that really hooked everyone, but then I think it went past that and was more of a meme to go
Mm-hmm.
and do and have the experience of a double feature. So, if that's sneaking in some cinephilia, like in the guise of I'm kind of fine with it.
No, yeah, I'm
And
for it.
yeah, and for people to be excited about seeing a film that yes is directly from like a marketing department, but that a few auteurs got their hands on and were able to make something that seems very true to what they're interested in filmmaking. And then for someone to make, a really wild biopic in the way that he makes his own films, and for it to be 3 hours long, and for people to want to go and have that experience together and see them both. It's actually kind of really heartening in that it continues to happen. But what I'm afraid of is the fallout from this is people trying to reverse engineer things like that, and it's just not going to happen the way this
Totally.
No.
happens so organically. Even though at first, whenever Warner Brothers made the move to put Barbie on that date, it seemed like a direct hit because that's always the Nolan weekend, and he's just moved away from Warner Brothers. So
Yeah, I mean
someone's gonna
that's the
write a
thing is
great book about
it
all
has its
this.
roots in like pettiness, like industry
Yeah,
pettiness, but it it didn't like it's not like that immediately congealed into a marketing scheme. It really like accelerated through social media organically. And of course, like
Totally.
all
Yeah.
organic social media things, like you say, somebody's going to try to reproduce it and it's going to be miserable. So
Yeah,
but
there's talk right now about Saw Patrol because a Paw Patrol movie and a Saw movie are coming out on the same day this fall, which I think is hysterical. And
should we
a
do
bunch of
it?
film Twitter is being so grumpy about it because it's like, it's not the same thing. They're not auteur movies. And I'm like, oh my God, get a grip. Like,
I want to see the mashup between Paw Patrol and
yeah.
Saw.
Well, there's a great poster already of
Yeah.
that. It's, Jigsaw in front of the Paw Patrol. Which again, I think that's great, but I also think it's very, this used to be the way people did it. They would
Yeah.
release a bunch of different movies on the same day. And I do love the cultural phenomenon of it. I love that people went to the movies midday and stayed all, like, I love all of the sort of knock-on effects. But, and I'm glad that none of this is unworthy. Like, I know when 50 Shades of Grey came out, a lot of people in the book world talked about, well, at least it's getting people reading. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a toxic book that gives you the absolute wrong impression about everything that's in it. So it's actually causing harm instead of doing good. And these movies don't do that. So that's a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, it would be something different if we were talking about something like that, but I think they're films that ultimately, whatever their flaws, are more for the good than not. I don't know, Andrew. I know which side you fall on. I know you're an Oppie boy.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick one or the other, I
Yeah.
preferred Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer is very good, actually. I think it's probably like top third or half Nolan for me.
Hmm.
I might have to revisit it. I got to see
Yeah,
it.
I'd say top half.
I got to see it twice on 70 millimeter, and that
God, that was gorgeous.
and the second time in a 100% sold out theater, and that was again. I just was ragging on the theatrical experience, but as we've been saying, it was kind of felt kind of weird to see a movie on a 3 hour talky biopic the second weekend it came out on 70 millimeter in a sold out freaking theater was pretty wild for the Midwest. Again, if it was Los Angeles or New
Yeah.
York, that might be different, but in the Midwest, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to have that happen.
Barbie, the more I think about it, the less I like it. I was kind of charmed by it initially, but as I sort of started to sit down and digest it, I feel like it fundamentally. I don't want to turn this like Katharine. I can go on for 20 minutes about it, but fundamentally, I think it's so deeply compromised by its identity as a brand delivery system that the things that it's trying to do that are interesting end up being almost completely sunk by the branding machine.
Hmm.
It's got its hands in too many pies. It's trying to be like this fun, self-aware meta musical
Lego
comedy,
movie. Right.
but it's also trying to be like this girl power TED talk, and it's also a 2 hour toy commercial. Like there's too many conflicts in that ball of things, and I think it kind of pulls it apart by the end for me.
Mm.
Well, I have a
But I
feeling.
still had a good time. I mean, like I did not enjoy myself.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy myself though. I mean, part of again, I'm really going to try to keep this short. My biggest issue was that when I was a little girl, I hated pink. And whenever I went into the toy store, the pink aisle was supposed to be the aisle for me. And I resented that that was what I was supposed to do because I was not into it, and I had Hot Wheels instead. And I had plenty of My Little Ponies as well, but like Barbies, no. And I felt like this film continued to reinforce feminine conformity in a way that I found really troubling. And I talked to a friend of mine about this, and she told me that she used to make her Barbies like have gay sex and like she would dress them in Ken's clothes and things. And so she was using the dolls probably as children should use dolls, which is to use them to harness their
Play. Right.
imaginations. And for me, it was more about I thought that the doll was supposed to play me, and the movie felt that way to me, that as if no matter what these women could do and accomplish, they still had to wear the right clothes and have the right makeup and wear high heels. And like it was all pushing me toward a kind of femininity that I've never enjoyed, not since I was a tiny little girl and not now that I'm a 40-year-old woman. And it was still all just surface shit. And I hate that. I appreciated a lot of the feminist messages, but it never seemed like it grew beyond white woman feminism.
Mm.
And I hated that. And yeah, there's more, but I'll stop there.
Well, I have a feeling we'll be talking about both of these movies for probably into the next year. It is going to be an award season curse that we're going to continue talking about Barbenheimer. We're going to regret ever saying that we liked that people went and saw them. But
if they
the
don't if they don't
discourse will
give
not stop.
a best sound editing Oscar to Oppenheimer, like what are we even doing? The
I think
sound
it's
was
shored up. I
so
think it's pretty
stunning.
shored up. It is, but I think some of that dialogue stuff's gonna seep
Editing,
into the.
editing too. It's his editor from Tenet, and I think she's like sharpened him a lot as a filmmaker.
I've always thought that Nolan lived and died by editing all the way back to Memento. And so the fact that he's leaned on it again in this movie was a real pleasure to watch. I did, yeah.
All right. Well, let's move into something smaller. Let's do a quick hit on a film that, unfortunately, by the time this comes out, will have left the St. Louis area, but is still playing in other markets. That's Christian Petzold's A Fire. Um, Andrew, do you want to set this one up? I don't think it takes a lot of setup.
No, it's more of a situational film. It's different from some of Petzold's. I think if you've seen the films that may have made him a popular international filmmaker, Phoenix, Barbara, Transit, then you're going to maybe be taken aback by how sort of low key and almost comedic this is. It's just a situational sort of dramedy about a sort of sad sack miserable asshole who's spending a week in the not anything remotely like you, Josh. You like
Why
fun, Josh.
why ever
This
did you like this movie, Andrew? I can't imagine.
No.
I knew. I was like, Andrew's gonna feel like this is him, and it's not him. But there are pieces of this character that I think people like us who are like extroverts can really understand, and people who like I don't know might struggle getting from A to C with the B part. That's me, and I was like fist clenched, but it's so warm too. I mean,
Until the end.
pot.
Until the end. It gets kind of dark at the
Well,
end.
yes, but I mean, this guy goes to spends a week
Yeah.
vacationing in the countryside with his friend, and there's some sort of overtones there that maybe there's more than friendship. At least that's how I read it. And it's the friend's mother's house, and what she has failed to mention to her son is that someone else is already staying there, and it's a woman played by
Old
Paula
bear.
Beer.
Yeah.
Like I love her so much,
Mhm.
and she was in Undina, the last Petzold film, and she kind of shakes things up. You make it sound like, by that description, it does sound like a very kind of traditional rom-com, and the structure of it could be that, but it plays like a Petzold film that you would be familiar with, pretty with intention, and it's leisurely paced, and you're really just spending time with these people. But what's key to it is that you're with this character as he makes decisions
Yeah.
and weighs these decisions against sort of the course of his own life as it stands right now. And then the thing that's happening in the background of all this is that there are numerous forest fires in the area, but they seem to be out of the clear, or in the clear as far as where they are. But it's like this approaching phantom who's about to really smack your ass into some reality.
And it's
I
just
thought,
I don't want to spoil too much about the film because I think part of watching the dramedy uncoil is why it's interesting. But I want to say to the people have talked about like, is that fire thing just heavy-handed symbolism? And one of the things I love about the way that Petzold implements it is that the fire is never seen. It's at night they can see a glow on the horizon where the distant wildfires are, and when they're at the house, they can hear this great sound design. You can hear helicopters, firefighting helicopters, distantly passing overhead, and you can hear the squeal of the 30 to 40, 50 feral hogs in the woods.
Really,
that are fleeing
Catherine,
the wild boar the wild boar that are like fleeing the front of the fire. So those those touches, like you don't actually see a raging fire, I think until the end, but those touches, like you say, it's a light dramedy, except there's that apocalyptic sprinkling from that fire that sort of hovers over everything.
This is how I felt about Christmas and Eyes Wide Shut. It was very like it's on the edges, but I hate Christmas, so I was like, Christmas is always there.
A kindred spirit. I also hate Christmas.
I watch Eyes Wide Shut on Christmas every year. That's like my annual ritual.
Yeah, because that's what Christmas is. It's
such a misanthrope. Oh my god.
It's capitalism.
Minnesota is a lovely state. What are you talking
about? But yeah, it really surprised me. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I don't want to talk about it a lot right now. I don't think we have the space to get into a lot of the details, but I think it's beautifully wrought. I think it's a great melodrama on top of being the situational comedy, the way it unfolds. And it's also a very sexy film that makes an interesting companion to Iris Sachs' new film Passages. That's all I'll say about that.
I read about that.
Ooh.
Someone on Twitter was complaining and then backlashing and then complaining against backlash about the sex and Passages. So
I have gotten myself off Twitter, but I'm very interested to hear what they have to say about that. Without spoiling, but I kind of have an idea of what exact scene they're talking about, if they're talking about one scene in particular. Anyway, let's talk about, God, I can't do that transition. Those of you who have seen Passages and Deliverance, let that be your special treat. We're here to talk about Deliverance. That's Katharine's pick from Cinema Speculation, the series that we're doing about Quentin Tarantino's big book of film memoir essays. And so we'll talk about John Borman's classic 1972 film next.
Ed Gentry. He runs an art service. Wife Martha has a boy, Dean. Lewis Medlock has real estate interests. Talks about resettling in New Zealand or Uruguay. Drew Ballinger. He's sales supervisor for a soft drink company. Bobby Tripp, bachelor, insurance and mutual funds.
Where you going? All right, I'm looking.
These are the men who decided not to play golf that weekend. Instead, they sought the river.
All right, so, Katharine, you have picked Deliverance. This is the second episode we've done in this series. This is about cinema speculation. Quentin Tarantino's book that came out late last year, right? Earlier this year? Whatever. It's available now, folks. So go pick up your companion copy to this podcast series. And in our first episode, we did Rolling Thunder, John Flynn's 1977. A prisoner of war returns to the States to rampage and revenge his way through down to Mexico. And I think we're in another revenge story here. And Katharine, I'm so glad you picked this one because you've written pretty extensively in an essay about Tarantino's Kill Bill that is coming up in a future yet to be released volume about the use of the rape revenge genre, specifically in Kill Bill, and how people sort of don't think of it as that because of the way Tarantino sort of obfuscates or makes modular changes in the typical rape revenge story. And I don't know that people think of Deliverance as that, but it is exactly that too. And I think I definitely want to get into that at some point. But first, I want to know why pick Deliverance? I know there were a few on your mind, but you ultimately picked this one.
The main reason was that I knew that I would have a lot to say about Tarantino's criticism on Deliverance, which is extremely astute. And it was the first time that I was reading this book and I went, okay, there's something here, as opposed to just fanboy chatter, which is what I thought this book would be. And it's not that at all. And what he says about Deliverance is that the movie narratively collapses after you don't find out what happens to Ronnie Cox's character. Um, I'm assuming that everyone watching this is either seen Deliverance or has read the Wikipedia page, because we're not going to like
This is a spoiler.
Spoil
This is a
away.
spoiler podcast.
yeah, we're not going to hold anything back. So when there's a point where Ronnie Cox falls over the boat and you don't quite know what happens to him. And so for the next, 20 minutes or so of the movie, where he has gone and what has happened to him is a mystery. And it just makes everything in the movie just go flat. And the way Tarantino points that out, I was like, that is it. That is the problem with the movie. And I hadn't recognized it in quite that way. I believe I'd seen Deliverance twice before reading this book and hadn't been able to put those pieces together, and was so happy that he did. So that was the main reason. The other reason is that I'm interested in John Boorman without actually liking him.
I know just what you mean. Yes.
And I think the main reason is that he's often speaking a cinematic language that I don't quite understand. Like I'm not 100% on board with whatever it is he's saying. I also have this problem with Michael Mann. Whenever I watch his movies, I'm just like a little bit lost. And I have decided that this is something to do with masculinity, and I don't 100% know what it is. I'm really like, I know I'm not being clear, but I have this feeling whenever I'm watching, Collateral or Heat or Miami Vice or Excalibur, or I mean, even Zardoz, which is an absolute delight. Still, there are places where I'm just like, I am lost as to what you're trying to say about these characters. And it's something about the way that things are framed and shot and put together that just does not make a lot of sense to me. And Deliverance is like that a lot. So those are the main reasons. I knew that I would be able to talk about it fairly well. Some of the other movies in this book are pretty challenging to talk about, or I think Tarantino missed the boat on them, or whatever. And also, two of my other choices, you were like, well, but that would make it a Schrader Fest, or well, that would make it a De Palma Fest. And I did not want to contribute to a Schrader Fest or a De Palma Fest. So, gonna make it a Borman Fest.
One of those I would be very happy about. But I won't say which. Listeners, you know. Andrew, had you seen Deliverance before?
Yeah, this is a film I'd seen a few times, actually. I don't remember exactly when. I'm convinced that it maybe was one of those films I saw relatively young, probably inappropriately. My mom wasn't a huge cinephile, but she is one of these parents who would like sit their kid down and say, you have to watch this. This is a good movie kind of thing. And I have a memory that I watched Deliverance and maybe was sent out of the room during the rape scene. I can't remember. But I have seen it multiple times, and I just recently rewatched it for this.
So I had a memory of only seeing half of it. And maybe this speaks to the criticism Tarantino has that you agree with, Katharine. But then as it kept going, I remembered all of it. Now, maybe that's with the film, maybe that's me having a very poor memory.
I think it's the film. I really do.
That's something I think let's step through Deliverance. And I think there's going to be one point where we definitely want to sit and talk for a little bit about the rape scene. The scene itself is very troubling, of course, goes without saying. But I had a lot of problems with the way Tarantino talked about it, but also discovering some things of its cultural impact. Because, Andrew, this has to be one of the most popular films we've ever talked about. Even if it's maybe waned in popularity just because it's 50 years old last year, right? Yeah. It's still a film like parents, oh, you have to see this because this was such a sensation, and it was. And it was nominated for Best Picture, Director. I think it was Editor was the last one. So, I mean, this was a
Hell.
film that was critically loved.
It's
And
probably the most mainstream film in Tarantino's, like of the books that get the chapter heading treatment. I think it's probably the most
maybe,
mainstream film.
No, Bullet,
Bullet, you
I would
think?
well,
say.
yeah, I'm thinking like, but Deliverance has this cultural cachet that I think
Yeah.
none of the other books have, and our films have. And I think a lot of that has to do with that rape scene,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
people like a lot of like highly popular films that have sort of entered the pop cultural lexicon through references and
Mhm.
a sort of amorphous cultural understanding. There are people who probably know that about Deliverance without ever having seen it.
I
Yes. Yeah.
explained actually that to a friend when I was like, "Oh, you know that thing about Squeal Like a Piggy?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, that's where this comes from." Is that? And they didn't know
Which was
anything else about the film.
supposedly improvised on set. It was like they were playing in the scene, and someone said you should squeal like a pig, and then the actor said, "No, wait, I want to say that to him, and then have him do it." I mean,
I
what
don't
great fun they were
believe
having
that.
out in the woods.
Bill McKinney is the guy who plays sort of the
Yeah,
lead redneck there is a really great character actor. Tarantino is right about that he's like shows up in a lot of 70s television and movies and 80s, and he maybe should have had a slightly bigger career than he did, but he has a really great face, and just he can dig really deeply into these sort of kind of villainous roles.
Can we talk about the book generally before or after the movie
Sure. I've never
generally?
read the novel, so
No,
or
no, the
cinema
this book.
speculation.
oh,
Let's
Yeah.
okay.
let's get into it. Let's let that be our guide if you'd like. One thing I want to say before you go to that is I actually kind of feel the inverse about Deliverance than you and Tarantino. I find the last half of this film more successful than the first
What?
half.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I want to hear about that before we talk about the book.
I, on one hand, he's doing something very representational, right? They are putting the themes into the mouths of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that always just I get caught on that every time. In
Mm.
this, it's a little more interesting because some of the characters are talking about power in the United States, political power in the United States, and they're going at it in a very like Gamergate incel kind of way and talking in these sort of like think piece headlines, red pill think piece headlines, and that comes out in their dialogue. And I don't actually believe that those characters would have that kind of conversation in the way that they have those conversations. So by the time John Voight literalizes the moment that he has when he first freezes with the bow trying to hit the deer. My eyes rolled back in my head 50 times. Oh, brother, it's called this and it's freezing in the moment. And blah. I'm like, all right, calm down, screenwriter, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. Like, you don't have to over explain it to me. I'm not stupid. I know generally what happens in the rest of this film that you're going to dissect all of that and how all of that works in action
See,
philosophically.
I have to insert here though.
Yes.
One of the things that I thought Tarantino was wrong about is he says that Dickie puts himself in, I can't remember who he says Dickie identifies with, whether it's
Burt
um,
Reynolds'
Lewis.
character,
okay,
Lewis.
because I was like, no, no, no. What Dickie has done is split himself into two, and the sensitive side is John Voight, and the manly side is Burt Reynolds, and it's idealized versions of both of them. And I only say that because I'm a novelist, and I know that's what you do when you have two protagonists. Like they're each half of you, only more so. And I'm sorry to assume, but Dickie is a white male novelist of a certain age, writing at a certain time in America. So I think I'm assuming this pretty fairly.
I think
So
that's fair.
that is why I feel like if anyone's being obvious, it's Dickie. It's not necessarily Borman or the screenwriter so much as like Dickie being like, okay, I want to make it really clear he's a coward, okay? And we just have to, figure out if he's going to man up by the end of the movie. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel that deer scene is about. I'm with you that it's very, very textual as opposed to subtextual, but I like it seems if it seems revolutionary because it's your average man who's not in touch with his feelings creating it.
Right, in that time. And that's what sort of puts me on just comparing the two halves. That's where I'm like, I don't think this film is a complete misfire. I think it made me angry a lot of times, probably provoked me in the way it wanted to provoke me. I feel like you're right. Sure, all of that stuff is sort of seeped up from the novel, but there are other moves that they make in making this almost Altman-esque for the first 45 minutes, where you're getting just characters kind of chatting and behaving. And the way that they do it is more interesting than when they're spelling it out in sort of capital letters. Like Ned Beatty's character, and I don't remember character names, I'm sorry. Ned Beatty's character is constantly having to sort of fight against Burt Reynolds, who's like poking him and his masculinity or his ability to do
He's
things.
bullying him. I mean, we
He's
can call it what
bullying.
it
He
is. He's
is
bullying him.
totally.
And then there's this part where they're around a campfire and they're going to go to sleep. And then Ned Beatty does this thing that reads as very like performative in that I'm going to go fuck my sleeping bag. Something like that. But all of that is more interesting to me than John Voight. Like, I don't mind the actual scene. It's the scene after where he describes when someone freezes because, oh, I just did this. And here's this psychological reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you both, do you buy Tarantino's thesis that, and I like how you describe Catherine Lewis and John Voight's character being a sort of split halves, but Tarantino reads that as homoerotic. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I thought it was pretty interesting that he played up the homoeroticism of the film that existed before the rape happens without fully addressing the rape happening. He says something about it that I think is totally right on, which is it seems like Ned Beatty gets over it before we do. And it's something that troubled me about this film when I saw it in my 20s is that the way that the men and the victim act about the rape is not at all the way that I expected them to. And that was an example of me being like, okay, so this film is speaking a language that I don't understand. I think that there is some homoeroticism in there, but not in a way that is useful to talk about in this film, if that makes sense. Like talking about it in Top Gun, super useful. Talking about it here, like there's just not a lot there.
Yeah,
Andrew?
it seems to me that people very often want to call something homoerotic when it's men bonding, period.
Yeah, it's
It's like,
homosocial is what it is. And
right,
like the difference
exactly.
between something that's homosocial and something that's homoerotic, I'm not positive Tarantino is able to split that hair.
I do think there's something you could have, like even a shot or a scene or an exchange that has an erotic undertone to it. And I don't even know how to like. I don't necessarily have the film theory language to describe it, but it doesn't necessarily have to add anything to the larger film. It can just be a moment. There's something about the way that I think, particularly about the scene where Lewis and Ed actually aren't alone that often early in the film. Borman does an interesting thing with like how he dyads the characters so that Ed and Lewis don't end up till like a good 30 minutes into the movie together once they're on the river. But there's a moment where Lewis is like bow hunting for fish, and he's almost like, Tarantino rightly calls it out, he's almost like he's posing for Ed, and Ed is sort of lounging in the canoe, almost like Lewis is hunting for him and he's sort of waiting to be fed by. There's something in the Bert with his scuba vest and everything,
His weird scuba vest.
There's something, I don't know. I'm not saying that they have homosexual attraction. I'm not saying that it's a or overtly homoerotic moment, but I think it's possible for films, even involving straight directors and straight writers and straight actors portraying straight characters, that it's possible you can dribble on a note of something like that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just, it makes it maybe a little more interesting than otherwise. There's something about the way that Boorman stages that moment that I really like.
Yeah. And I feel like something I put in my notes was who is the burden and who's the driving force shifts around a lot and over the course of the movie. You know, even Ned Beatty saves the day a couple of times, and he saves John Voight from drowning at one point, and he cares for Burt Reynolds after he breaks his leg, but like he's also pushing them down the river in a way that he was just going along for the ride at the beginning of the movie. And that sort of dynamic set of changes as to who's doing what is interesting if you're going to read this film in some wacky way, like they're a family and like who's the child and who's the father, and you know that shifts around a lot, and that's interesting. But it's not, to me, it's not a rich enough film to reward readings like this so consistently throughout the running time.
Yeah, that's true.
That's Roger Ebert's rub on the thing. He was one of the critics who wasn't highly praiseful about Deliverance. He said while
I fucking hate Roger Ebert. I'm sorry. And so I'm very surprised to agree with him about this.
Well, he said it as far as an action film, it was well done, but it didn't have the things that kept propping up. It didn't have the support to hold them up. The thematic ideas. I gotta, if anyone reads this book, I gotta just say it. Quentin Tarantino would never write about a woman getting raped in the same way that he writes about Ned Beatty getting raped, because one, culturally, I guess, in film and telling these stories, women getting raped is such a trope that I guess it becomes normalized to him. Two, what's the ultimate emasculation of a man is, I guess, anal sex, because he writes about this rape. He uses the phrase fucked in the ass and then booty blown out, something like that. I'm like, it is infuriating, because I felt in the very first, the like preface of this book, Tarantino was working extra hard to prove that he's not a homophobe. Tarantino, I'm a huge fan of Tarantino, so this is something that I hold in my mind and fight against all the time. Like early interviews, I've heard Tarantino use the F slur in a way that's really fucking gross, and talking about male sex in ways that is really fucking gross. And then by the time you get to the Deliverance chapter, you're like, there it is. You have revealed yourself once more, sir. So it's he like highlights the way this is culturally, how this is penetrated. No, I'm not using that word. How this is
sorry. It just
cutting that out.
It just popped out.
How this has been disseminated, whatever, throughout the culture.
God.
In a
Stop
way,
all your head.
In a way that the reason it is because of this sort of double-headed misogyny, homophobia. Is like that is why this scene really sticks with us throughout the rest of the film, the way it doesn't with the characters. It's because ultimately that's not something that happens in films. Now, whether or not the filmmakers are sort of conscious of that, I mean, they have to be, right?
Yeah.
But do you think the text really hits on either of those things strongly during that scene? Like that scene strikes me as very
harrowing.
Yeah, Tarantino describes it really well. It's like, it's almost like you're watching predator, like woodland predators move in on a field mouse or something like that. There's something
I disagreed with that, because to me it is a harrowing scene, but part of what is that way about it is that it's long. It's beautifully shot. Like I noticed this time that when the two of them are like over here in the in the bottom right of the frame instead of being center frame, which is how you would do it if you were directing it today, because filmmakers today are idiots. And it's there's so much time, and the
There's a lot of
shots are
circling.
not quick, and it's this very carefully done sequence, and then the film just drops it, and it's like never mentioned again. And I don't understand. Like, you could have him, Ned Beatty dealing with the physical after effects of having this happen to him,
Which there would be.
would be.
Yeah.
And them, I don't know how to explain what unnerves me so much about the scene, because it's not just the actual rape that bothers me. Rape does bother me in film, but also the way that the film treats it as if it's very, very important, and then it's just gone the next minute. Why?
It does hang over the rest of the film, though, in our imaginations. I think that these men, I kind of think this is how they would treat it. Just addressing it by not addressing it, by saying, don't you ever talk about it again. And I think Ned Beatty says at one point, this is what we're going to do because I don't want anyone to know. And it's sort of a silent agreement at that moment. He's gone through the worst thing we could ever go through. Therefore, I agree.
Yeah, there are parts of this film that I don't like, actually, but that's not something that I ever catch on. To me, I actually feel like it's realistic for how like a foursome of straight guys would react if they're isolated and in this situation and they manage to extract themselves from it. And like, then there becomes like this agreement that we're not going to talk about this. This is old World War II boomer generation shit. Like, this isn't a boomer era film, but it is that kind of agreement. And there's something
that's true
too, also about the way that the murder of like the lead redneck, and I guess eventually the second one as well, but particularly the way they have that sort of central scene where they're all sort of, it's not a scene I actually particularly care for, because it feels like debate club where they're arguing about what to do with the body and the morality of that, and like what's the right or pragmatic thing to do in this situation. But I do think you can view how they're talking about the body as itself a stand-in for the rape, right? Because they're talking about, what can we do with this? Well, there's only one thing we could do it. We can bury it under 10 miles of fucking water, so we never have to think about it.
See, this is the stuff that I don't get about, like, it doesn't instinctually occur to me that that's what they're talking. Thank you. My God. Film just opened up for me, man.
I'm not saying it unlocks the film, and I still have some things
it does.
I catch on, but I've always viewed that, like, when they say that's about as deep as buried as you can get, like, they're really talking about how Ned Beatty is absolutely never bringing this up in theory.
Yeah. No, they're never going to talk about the actual thing in the room that is the rape, the ultimate violation of a masculine man, right? Mm-hmm. And when I'm sort of denigrating the way what it is in the film, I don't want to come across as being cavalier about a rape. What I'm really concerned with is what culturally happens from that, in that people pick this up from this film, and that squeal like a pig becomes like a joke between dudes. Like, I have heard that.
That's not okay. And the inherent homophobia underneath the scene is not okay. And like, I think it's a good idea to acknowledge that, even as we keep talking about it. Because it's upsetting. But the part of what was upsetting in 1972 was the male scare inherent in it. As opposed to now, where I feel like audiences might look at this a little differently. But the scene where they all talk about
movies, that's what bothers me. That's what always bothers me, is they still put it in prison, at least to this day.
It does. It bothers me too. This time watching it, I realized as I was watching them talk about it, so it does remind me of, I was in a high school production of The Crucible, and we put the stage in the middle of the room. It was a really, really big, long room where we put the audience, and instead of putting the stage at one end and the bleachers at the other end, we put the stage in the middle. And during one of the accusation scenes, we were all supposed to circle and circle and circle as we delivered our lines. And that's what this reminded me of, which is, it's a little dramatic. But it dawned on me as I'm watching this scene, oh, this is the center of the movie. This is the scene that's supposed to be the whole point of why this movie exists. And it never is so dynamic again, in my opinion. Uh, but it's also not as good as it thinks it is.
Yeah, so I let's get into what the second half of the thing is.
Yes,
I think
please.
I like the second half of it because people shut the fuck up.
Love it. Love it.
I'm sort of serious because the thing that was I was really sticking to was this just really kind of flat platitudes about the masculinity in the time and a lot of really conservative politically and socially talk that they're doing felt just like shoehorned in when you're getting that in their behavior. You're getting that in their just day-to-day exchanges.
I do think there's a little bit of realism in the sense that, and I don't think the dialogue is particularly well written, but in the sense that four middle class white dudes in 1970, in their 30s or 40s in the woods alone are going to open up to each
Oh,
other in ways that they wouldn't in polite society necessarily.
oh yeah,
1972
absolutely.
especially.
And we know exactly, how that locker room talk, how that happens, and how people dismiss it that way because it is that, right? I guess it's more the execution of it is what I get hung on, but the rest of it is the thing that I sort of respond to in the films that are the progeny of this film, which is like a very silent chase in the woods against a sort of like faceless, even though we know there's face, this figure in the woods and the sort of cat and mouse game that they're playing, even though some of it is kind of downright, I don't even like this word, cheesy. There are some shots in this that are especially in the second half, that are like so like there's a rear projection of the sky and John Voight, and it looks so unreal, but I thought it looked beautiful and so
I think it's
like
day for night. They're
hell
doing
was
some kind of posterized day for night photography or something.
oh, I loved it. I loved it. I thought it looked great, and it stood in opposition to the rest of the film. Even though Borman is in this film seems less interested, and maybe it's just sort of the nature of what he was doing. Being in the woods and trying to make a film can't be as easy as being in, L.A., the L.A. of Point Blank, or all of these crazy constructed sets of Zardoz and Excalibur. But he seems less interested in doing a lot of the kind of typical jazzy shit that he's up to
No,
here
it's
until he can kind of control some things like that scene.
yeah, to me it's a very precise film, even though I don't like the looseness of the second half, but the way that it's shot and edited and framed especially is just very, very precise. And I prefer that in a film. I hate Altman. So I really like I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. It's
Um,
okay.
but I just love the sort of the precision of Haneke is what I'm always seeking in a film. Um, and
Very precise.
and I don't think Borman is anywhere like that, but just the way every frame feels purposeful. Oh my God, that's all I want. Give me that.
Yeah, it's a really solid action movie that has attention to the way that the characters are interacting within certain spaces. Catherine, I just did something to you. What?
Is it an
Solid?
action film? That it's a
Yeah.
character drama with like two action sequences. Come on.
I mean, he is
This scene,
scaling a mountainside.
but it takes forever. That scene lasts 4 hours of him scaling the
It's ni-
mountain.
it's 1972 action.
And I don't care that he's scaling the mountain. Like, I realized after that scene was over, I was like, oh, okay, so this is supposed to be a man accomplishing something alone type of thing. But I was like, no, like, go home and do the dishes, please. So
Can-
stupid.
So can we talk about the like third act? Well, I guess it's really like a fourth act in this
Hmm.
is when they're
Almost an
out of the
extended
woods.
coda, really.
Right.
Hmm.
I didn't remember that happening, but
Oh, I did.
I remember that scene in the car when the police chief comes is like, you can't do that in a small town. Sorry. He
That's
says
James Dickey too,
he
the
almost
sheriff.
literally said, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's right."
Well, let
It's
me
such
tell
an
you what.
odd move.
Let me tell you what I like. The scene that stuck in my memory when I was a kid and has been like one of my favorite scenes in the film. Like, I agree in a sort of general sense that there is a flaccidness to that like last third or so of the film, but one scene that sticks in my memory almost more than some of the most iconic scenes is that one where they're at like a boarding house or something, and Bobby and Ed are both at a boarding house, and Bobby is sitting there already sort of seated with the locals doing this kind of country style dinner where everybody's eating out of the same bowls, and Ed comes in and sits, sort of just slowly sits down and approaches the table and sort of puts himself in this group, and then like he holds it together for about 30 seconds and then he just like breaks down and starts sobbing. And I don't know why, but maybe it's filmed at this cool like oblique angle initially, and then there's some back reverse shot. I just remember like that is burned into my brain as a kid. It's like that's what I think of when I think of Deliverance. Is actually that scene. It's not the squeal like a piggy. It's not the whitewater rapids. It's that sort of collapse at the Captain Phillips-esque collapse at the end.
I was going to say it.
Yeah.
That it's that Captain Phillips scene that it's like you think, oh, it's a movie. It's movie behavior. It's like superhuman behavior that people are able to do this. But then when you see like the real humanity start coming out and it's just an utter outpour of all the emotions that they have.
And it's not doesn't happen in like during the police interrogation. It doesn't happen when he's being pressed. It happens when he finally lets his guard down and he's sitting with strangers and it just all comes bubbling out. I've always really liked that as like the one sort of bright jewel in that last 30 minutes.
See, I feel like that's the juxtaposition of extreme normalcy with what he's been through. And also I would push it a little and say the juxtaposition of the domestic with the wildness of what he's just been through. And
he's thinking of home already. He's not yet home, but he's thinking of home already.
Right. And I mean, I feel like there's the thing that bothers me about the sort of philosophy of everything that they say in the first half is that it's all very posturing, and that there's so much hypocrisy inherent in like, we're going to go and see this wilderness before it goes away. And Burt Reynolds saying the wild will conquer you. There's no, but you do not see that you're trying to go out there and conquer it by surviving it. Like, how do you not see all of the forces that are pushing against you and your philosophy about the wonders of the wild? It reminded me so much of learning that Henry David Thoreau's mom cooked for him while he was at Walden. Like, these men are like going out there and pushing their manness on the wilderness, but they're failing tremendously, and yet they still walk away feeling like they've won.
Do they though?
And
but
that breakdown, that breakdown at the table is the only moment where you're like, okay, maybe this might have fucked you up a little bit.
But the credits roll over Ed laying with his wife and completely unable to sleep. Like that's the credit roll.
It does have this. Robin Wood, the great critic, once wrote, you know, if men win in the end, or the movie is truthful in the end, then it's a good film, because in reality, the patriarchy always wins. So whether or not we want that represented on the screen, this is a film that is essentially about that way that system pushes back on them when they try to encroach upon it.
But isn't that why the posturing
dealing
is
with
almost
the
necessary?
aftereffects?
Isn't that why the posturing is almost necessary? Like if the framing of this trip had been, and I think this is how the trip will be framed in 2023. If it's four friends saying, this river is going to be dammed and it's going to be lost forever, and we need to be like the last four people that go, not in terms of conquest, but in terms of seeing something special that nobody's going to be able to see after a while. If it was framed like that, the pushback from nature and the hillbillies and everything else that tries to destroy them would feel a lot more cruel or something. But because they're kind of hapless suburbanites, except for Lewis, who's kind of a pompous dick, like their attitudes in that first 30 minutes, I think, is what makes us feel like the natural pushback against them maybe feels a little more warranted. It doesn't feel so sadistic. It feels like you fucking stepped in. You got into something that you should have known better than getting into, and you had an attitude when you went into it of like arrogance. If it wasn't couched like that, I feel like the film wouldn't have pushed back at them so hard. I don't know.
Well, two things about that. One is maybe I would have preferred for it to be sadistic rather than suitable. And two
Hells
is
have eyes.
I feel like the film endorses the arrogance of it.
You are never on the other side of it. There's no sympathy for the other.
Yes. Exactly.
And
yes.
I don't necessarily need it to do that, but not at one moment is it really giving you anything from. We are all sort of just putting this on it as it should be, or like the idea of it. But again, I don't know that the film really explores all of that well, because most of it is just sort of like a man climbing a mountain, or people in the, they just don't know how to handle nature. But it's all set up within the first 15 minutes, where they're like, you're the local people, the native people, as Tarantino calls them, are like,
He calls them indigenous, which I was like, I was that's the word
like,
you mean, dude.
I keep trashing on this, man. I'm like, I don't know.
Like,
I mean, but they might by definition be the hill people.
Well, I mean, I was amused by indigenous. It's not okay to call white people indigenous in any country except, maybe Sweden. But I do think that's humorous, because my father is from Appalachia Hill people. So it's not that I recognize these people necessarily, but they're not that far from my relatives. And so to call them that, I just thought was very funny.
But Tarantino's from Tennessee too, so like he's familiar with the area.
A film that gives us more like the locals' perspective, is more sympathetic, not necessarily to the rapist, to the actual like perpetrators, but to the people in this environment, is a very different film. And I'm not sure how you would square that circle. I almost feel like it needed to go the other way. Maybe this is what you're getting at, Katharine. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like where we go to full. The rednecks are just demonic. They're nihilistic demons that are attacking us, lefty people who are venturing into their domain and destroying. I mean,
that's the film that does all of this in the most correct way.
Yes.
I mean, that is such a good callback, Andrew, is that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the film that does it in the slyest and the most grimiest and exciting genre exercise that it is. That's the film that gets across exactly what we're talking about.
But the people, the characters in TCM don't have a particular posture, and the characters in Deliverance do. Yeah. I'm not talking about the indigenous characters. I'm sorry, but I mean the non-hill people, the people who intrude, like the people in Deliverance have this idea of what the wilderness should be, whether or not they're there to conquer it or pretend that they're not conquering it, like Burt Reynolds or whatever. They have a distinct idea of what they're getting into, whereas TCM is more like, these people are just on a freaking road trip.
Right. But I mean, they are coded to be sort of like modern, young, hip people. But they don't have a philosophy. They're just like out there on the road.
Well, to me, that's the more interesting way of doing it, is like, you're not spieling out a certain philosophy or ideology in a character. It's like you have to recognize your own bias against a character and maybe what other characters would have against them. I mean, they're entering like a complete demonic, like the ninth circle of hell there. But the interesting push and pull between all that is like industrialization and the rise of the left and hippie culture and all that, with only using like costume design or just like an outward appearance
instead of masculine chatter. I'm coming around to your opinion about this, actually, that they just talk too damn much in the first half.
They talk too much. Shut up and climb that mountain, sir.
When was I don't have the history here. Do we know when Robert Bly's first rose to prominence, Iron John and all that, like the theory of woodsy masculinity, was that contemporaneous to this or did it come later?
It must be. Like, I can't imagine that it's not contemporaneous. But you guys look that up, and I'm going to talk about hillbilly movies for a minute. So,
Please.
one of the things that is relevant to Deliverance is, as I was studying the 70s, I discovered that there are two specific strains of blue collar movies that exist: trucker movies and hillbilly movies. And these are not the same genre. And I really wish that the hillbilly movies did not exist, because, oh boy, they're awful. Trucker movies are fun. Hillbilly movies are dire. And I feel
Give
like
us some examples of each, please, if you can.
Okay, so Convoy is
Yeah.
the most prominent example of a trucker movie. There's a Chuck Norris movie called Breaker Breaker that's a trucker movie. Some of these verge over into being hillbilly movies because the people they encounter sometimes are, but there's I've forgotten the names of all the ones that I watched, but oh man, they're awful. There's one with Peter Fonda that's a trucker movie, but there's one with I want to say John Saxon that's a hillbilly movie that's close to Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit is closer to being a hillbilly movie, but it's fun. And The Hills Have Eyes is a great example of a movie that uses the hillbilly tropes that existed in comedies of the time to make a horror movie. So when was Robert Bly?
I was mistaken. It was much later. It was 19. I mean, Robert Bly himself was around and working quite a bit, but Iron John, which was sort of the seminal text of it, is 1990, much later. So
What?
I guess I misunderstood it.
Oh, that's shocking. I can't believe it's so late.
I mean, I'm looking at his bibliography. He was publishing all the way back in 1962. So, like, I guess the thought circle was out there. And I think we can say, I'm no expert on 1970s male theory, but I feel like we can say that these ideas were out there churning post 60s.
Yeah, I mean, Thoreau's a good callback. Much earlier than that, but something that has survived for a very long time. It's like, stripping yourself of everything, consumerist, capitalist, and getting down to your most natural self is like the ultimate purity for a man. That's some. Yeah. Anyway, Moonshine County Express.
Yes,
Is
that's
that
the
it?
one.
I
That
gotta
is,
watch this.
oh, it's rough. It's so hard. And
Oh,
like,
Dog is Killed is the thing that pops
So
right out.
help me out a little bit. So the movies that fall under the hillbilly genre are these. You mentioned Hill House Have Eyes, but I think of Hill House Eyes as a mutant movie, not a hillbilly movie. But maybe that's just me.
all right.
But I see what you're saying in that it uses some of the tropes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what is an example? Like, are hillbilly movies like exploitation pictures? Are they revenge films? Are they comedies? What are
No,
they?
they're comedies. They're extremely broad, terrible comedies. The one that I forgot it already, Josh, but that's the main one that I was
Moonshine
thinking
County Express.
of. Moonshine County Express, because they're trucking moonshine the same way that Smokey is trucking.
So is White Lightning a hillbilly
Coors
movie?
Light.
That's a Burt Reynolds
It might
moonshiner
be.
movie.
Yeah, no, Moonshine County Express is like it's got girls in like gingham strappy dresses and stuff. It's hard.
Anything else in cinema speculation that we kind of want to discuss, whether it's the book or not? I mean, Catherine, this is the one moment you got to throw out. Do you got some hot takes about Tarantino's hot takes?
I do. I have lots and lots of hot takes.
All right, give us
Some of
give
them
us
are
a few of
actually
them.
lukewarmy takes. One thing that interested me was over the past few years, I've developed a sort of subspecialty in 70s films because I think the year 1977 deserves a book, and I'd like to write it. And yet, I had seen a minority of the films that he focuses on in this book. So for this podcast, I went through and I watched every single one of the ones that has a chapter about it. So I think I researched more for this podcast than for any other I've ever been on. And I noticed that the more movies I watched from this book, the more wrong I thought he was. Like, he was very convincing as long as I hadn't seen the movie. And one of the things that really bugged me is that in two of the films, in The Outfit and in The Getaway, which I thought were kind of the same movie, TBH. Um, both of those, the male lead slaps around the female lead, and Tarantino never mentions that. And it bothered me a lot because it felt like the kind of casual violence toward women that were it was common in the Sean Connery Bonds, for instance, and
Mhm.
like as if this was sort of part and parcel of being a male action hero, was that you were going to slap around your girlfriend. And I
John
do
Wayne
not
did it
like.
too in some of his westerns.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I don't like what message that sowed into the minds of men like him who grew up with these movies. Um,
There's
so
an
that bothered me.
interesting strain throughout these where it's like none of these films, well, I think you were talking about this, how none of these films feel like outwardly or outrageously misogynistic. I don't know if there's a misogyny scale necessarily, but the accumulative effect for me has been like not only the absence of woman in it or the feminine in it, but like as you go through it, it's like God, have do you want to talk about like Lena Wertmuller or Claudia like somebody talk about
Somebody.
some film that focuses on a I mean in The Outfit, Karen Black, I mean that's an interesting character, but ultimately yeah, that's what happens is like she's just hit around a lot and
Hmm.
abused in many different ways by James Caan in that, so whoever it
No,
is in
it's
that.
Robert Duvall,
Robert Duvall, right,
who
right,
was
right.
one of my favorite actors, and I loved seeing him in that. But I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, they're both good.
Yeah, and I liked him a lot better than I liked McQueen in The Getaway. But I also, you're right. Most of these films are what Anne Helen Peterson called masculinist, in the sense of they're some of these films, not all of them, are worlds without women. Deliverance being a primary example, where it's so much a film that depends on a world made solely of men that I
Hmm.
feel left completely out of the film. And because because I'm a critic and because I was born in the 20th century, I am used to that. I'm used to that feeling where there's no character that I can grab onto and identify with. But as I'm going through the movies in this book, I'm more and more troubled by the pattern of female characters in these movies. The fact that I'm not troubled whatsoever by the pattern of female characters in Tarantino's movies is sort of a miracle compared to the films that he chooses. Like he doesn't talk about coffee, which I know was a big influence on him. No, he talks about The Outfit or The Getaway. Like why? Why is that? And I
Yeah, I wonder
also,
what the logic is for how he picked these particular chapter headers. He does do
yeah.
Daisy Miller, which is the real outlier of this book. Like,
Oh, I hated it so much.
Yeah, yeah, you
Oh, I
know,
hated
Daisy
that
Miller is
movie.
the outlier
yeah,
in many ways. That movie's pretty cruel to that character. Well, I mean, that's from the Henry James, but yeah, I do have that same conflict too because I've stuck up when the conversation comes up about Tarantino and the the whole Sharon Tate characterization in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I love that character in that movie, and every time she's on screen, the movie's you know a much better movie for me, and I love what a kind of gift it is to Sharon Tate's legacy. But I think of Tarantino as one of the more like masculine filmmakers who focuses on women. When I think of Tarantino, I think of Death Proof. I think of Jackie Brown. I think of Beatrix Kiddo and her cadre of women. And you know, I guess that is sort of sidelining. I'm being selective there with Reservoir Dogs, but Pulp Fiction's also very interested. The most interesting character
speaking of
in there is a woman, you
rape,
know?
rape revenge films, Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction's like entire third act basically becomes a rape revenge film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
In
well, yeah, I mean, Reservoir Dogs is definitely a film without women, and a world without women, but it's early. And I think over time, his capacity to include female characters expanded more and more and more to the point where I don't really feel a loss whenever I watch, like when I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was like, okay, cool, movie about two men, love it. But I it's unusual, you know, for a lot of his movies have female characters who are just more or less characters
They're
instead
just
of,
characters.
yeah,
Yeah.
like looking
Half
at
of
him in
Death
a,
Proof is women talking to each other.
Yeah.
yes,
I mean,
and
70% of
it's,
Death Proof, really.
and it's definitely a rape revenge film
Mhm.
that is good, a good one. um so I never feel like, as a feminist critic, there's plenty to talk about with Tarantino, but I'm never gonna say like, you messed up, buddy. Like, it's very rare that I would be like, you know, this character's one dimensional and you shouldn't have included this violence and yada yada. Like, even though the Kill Bill opens with a woman's body being destroyed, which is, you know, how many times have we seen that, and how necessary has it been every single time? But in this film it is necessary,
It is
and
expressing
that's
about that.
completely, that's the
Yeah.
whole difference between him
And the way he
and,
does it, right? Is that the
Yeah.
first image of the film is the 60-foot high, brutalized face of Uma Thurman in gleaming black and white. Like, he gives us immediately the kind of ride we're going to be in for.
Mhm.
I think the only one that I hitch on sometimes, and it's a film I absolutely love, but I do hitch on the way that Brunhilde in Django Unchained
Yeah.
basically served, like, Kerry Washington's good in it, but she's basically a damsel in distress, which I don't mind at a like 10,000-foot level, because Django Unchained is essentially like a fairy tale. Like, it actually lampshades that it's a German like ring cycle fairy tale, like epic fairy tale.
Yes.
And then the other one being Hateful Eight, I guess, which is like, you could argue
Oh
like
yeah.
Wow.
how
No, Hateful Eight.
vile he makes sorry, I'm blanking.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Jason Leigh.
Jennifer
Yeah,
Jason Leigh's
but
character.
Hateful Eight is, I don't love talking about that movie because I feel like it's an exception in a bunch of ways. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Deliverance, I did want to kind of put in a little, what do feminist film critics make of Deliverance, in that it's a world without women? And then, so does the film necessarily feminize one of its characters in order to denigrate it? I don't know. I mean, this is way too high scholarship for me, but I do know that a lot of Deliverance feels too masculine for my taste.
I get that. The whole thing, the whole book, it all smells a bit like used gym socks to me. So,
Great, love it. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
I find that I catch on just, this is, I think it goes to what you were saying, Josh, early in the discussion about the way that characters are just sort of, things are being put into the mouths of characters because it's important to have that argument in the film. Like, I really think that the way that Ronnie Cox's character Drew kind of ends up around the murder scene.
We didn't even talk about him at all.
He literally fell out of the raft and nobody noticed.
That's
But
very
like
funny.
all of them, but particularly the way that like Drew is set up in like opposition to Lewis in that key central scene after the rape murder, where they're trying to discuss what to do with the body and how they're going to resolve the situation. And Drew's just like being pointlessly antagonistic and whiny in ways that don't even really scan as like a way a character would react. Like, and that, to me, it's emblematic of a larger issue with this, the writing of this film, which is that so many times characters assume positions because their archetype has to assume that position, not because.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
infuriating because in other ways this feels like a very brutally realistic film, and then you have like characters mouthing positions. Maybe it's not two characters, maybe it's like the four quadrants of the novelist's mind are out there
Yes.
speaking lines from the mouths of these characters. I don't know. It's the one part that I catch on. I kind of like it. I think it's a good, not great film as a sort of great drama with some intense whitewater rafting sequences and they're climbing up the rock and, oh, are they going to survive? The hillbilly's going to kill them. And then like there's the whole almost like, can they get away with it tension of the last 40
sort
minutes.
of noir-y crime.
Yeah. So like all of that as sort of surface level pleasures I like. I had to talk about a film like this as a pleasure, but it like, to me, it works as sort of a crackerjack Sunday movie 3. But I don't know that it like as a deep movie, as a movie that's with themes that ever really has spoken to me. Like I just bounce off that a little bit every time. I understand what it's doing. It's not that it's mystifying to me. It's just like, no, yeah, not really buying it.
It's a little confusing to me. That's my ultimate take on Deliverance, is that I find it a confusing film because I'm never quite sure what its stance is. Every stance that it creates seems to be hypocritical. and every thing that it sets up, it doesn't knock down all the way. And I do feel like Ronnie Cox falling out of the boat, which every time that I have watched this movie, I have backed that up and watched it again because I'm
Weirdly
like,
It
directed
it's just,
shot.
it's
he's
so strange.
jumping.
Yeah, it seems like, and the thing that I have landed on literally just as headcanon, as opposed to actually thinking that this is what's in the film, is that he felt so much despair that he decided to kill himself.
That was my thought. That was
And
my
I think-
initial thought.
I think the ambiguity of Drew's fate and the ambiguity that they tried to sustain for a little bit about whether the guy that Ed is hunting on the rock face is even the right guy. I think those feel like things that must work better in the novel.
that's
where we
what
can't
Tarantino
see
says. And I agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but it feels like a novelistic where you're inside Ed's head going, what the fuck did I just see? What's going on? Am I self-doubt about what exactly is happening? It works better on the page. I don't know.
At this point, I've spent enough time with these guys. I ain't reading that thing. Sorry that happened, or good job, thank you.
Happy for you. Sorry
Happy
that
for you.
happened.
Yeah. Well, hey, can we talk a little bit more about the actors in the film?
Here we go.
And play a little game? Do you want to play a little game?
I do, but I do want to say initially, I found out, I mean, to me, the paratext of this film is way better than the actual film itself. So I found out that Ronnie Cox has hypermobile joints. So he just actually put his arm behind his head for that scene where he's the corpse.
I was seriously like, did he that's him. Because that would not look this good in 1972. I know what a fake body, like they throw somebody off and it looks like a doll. Like I know that man is, see, I can't, that man, bleh. Well, we're not going to talk about Ronnie Cox. We're going to forget about Ronnie tonight. All right, so now we've come to the rules of the game. This time we're going to come back to the IMDb game, or also known as Known For. It's where we quiz each other on some performers and see what kind of crazy algorithm IMDb has and guess what are their top 4 known for. Those are the first 4 that show up on their IMDb page when you first pull it up. So, all right, there are 3 of us, and we're going to do the 3 lead actors in Deliverance. That would be Burt Reynolds, Jon Voight, and Ned Beatty. Katharine, as our guest, I'm going to let you choose who you quiz and who you want to guess about.
Okay. I'm going to give myself Jon Voight because I have 2 guesses about him, not 4, and I don't want to be cruel to anybody else. And I'm going to give Andrew Burt Reynolds, and Josh, you're stuck with Ned Beatty.
Yeah, I get Ned Beatty. So, Andrew, you're going to quiz me on Ned Beatty.
All right.
Right. Okay. And I will quiz you, Katharine, on Jon Voight. So here's the thing. I know you'll have 2 guesses. That's good because after 2 incorrect guesses, we're actually going to give you the years of the films that are left.
Okay.
Then if you can't get it from the years, we'll just give you random clues.
Yeah, because the problem with this game is that I'm only familiar with Jon Voight to a point. And there's a point beyond which I have no idea what movies he was in. So,
well, let's see.
Reynolds is the easy one.
And also remember to call out if there are any if there's any TV work or voiceover work. So those are the kind of gimmies. All right. Do you want to go first? Do you want to guess first or give first?
I will guess first because I'm happy to fail and go splat on this one, and I'll
All
lead
right.
it off.
Well, the rules are made up and the points don't matter, so there's no
Nope.
purpose.
Okay.
We will all forget this very soon. All right. So you are guessing the known for of John Voight.
Okay. I'm guessing that two of them are going to be not counting Deliverance, which I'm guessing is one of them.
Correct.
But I feel like that's not. Yeah. I'm going to guess Coming Home and Anaconda.
Anaconda is correct.
Wow.
Coming Home is not here.
Bummer.
His Oscar.
I guess sentimentality really is out.
So you've got one more guess before we give you the years.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I really don't know.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. So you have two films correct, Deliverance and Anaconda, which like good
Yeah,
pull.
I know.
Anaconda.
I love Anaconda.
His
1969.
accent.
Oh, the Midnight Cowboy.
Yep,
Yeah,
you got it. You
I
got
always
it.
forget. Sorry.
Okay,
I
here's
don't
the-
love that movie, so that's part of it. But
Oh, I love that movie.
I do like it too. 1985 is the very last one.
no, I don't know.
So this one, he was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. That's not gonna help. I don't feel like it's a film anyone really talks about. It's made by a Russian director coming to Hollywood. Here's something weird. One of the credited writers on IMDb is Akira Kurosawa.
Okay.
I guess he wrote the original screenplay that the adaptation this film is based on. He wrote that.
This whole
It also has Rebecca De Mornay and was like an important film for Eric Roberts.
Do important films for Eric Roberts exist?
Yeah, I was the only one that I'm aware of that's important is Star 80.
So this is after Star 80.
Well, yes. Oh.
Eric Roberts nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role.
Yeah,
for
I
this
really
one.
have no idea. I'm sorry.
This is the film Runaway Train.
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I've never even
right?
heard of this.
You could have
I
given
mean-
me another half hour. I would have.
So,
know.
two escaped convicts and a female railway worker find themselves trapped on a speeding train with no brakes and nobody driving. And on that
Hence,
description,
A runaway
Josh is
train.
putting it in his.
So it's
watch list.
Defiant Ones plus Speed plus Silver Streak?
Yes, I think you have that. All right.
I mean, it sounds a little like Midnight Run ripoff, maybe.
I don't know, but the cover image is someone hanging off a ladder off of a helicopter. So.
Is it an action movie? Is it presented as
we've
an action
gotten
movie?
Oscar nominations from this. God, the 80s were so bleak.
They're so weird. They're so weird. I don't know. I'm down to try it. Even though John Voight, noted terrible person.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. Who's gonna guess next?
You.
Burt Reynolds is deceptively easy. I feel like he's going to really throw. Let me try Ned Beatty.
Okay. What's your initial guesses?
Deliverance.
Yes. It's the gimme.
Network.
The other gimme?
Nashville.
No. Your remaining ones are 1978 and 2007.
2007?
Yeah. That's the oddball, I think, in this bunch.
Wasn't he in The Passenger?
The Passenger. With the Antonioni?
Yeah.
I don't know. Isn't that just Jack Nicholson and a bunch of
It's Jack Nicholson and
Italian
Maria Schneider,
folks?
but it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like sorry. I'm sorry.
You're stepping on his guesses there.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. 1978. I feel like there's a key film that he's in. Is he an alien?
No.
1978. Is the 2007 before The Devil Knows You're Dead.
I think it's immediately before that. Hang on. Because I think Devil Knows You're Dead is 2008.
Yeah, you're right. 2007. Is he like in one of the great 2007 films and I'm not thinking of what it is?
No, you're never
It's a
going to guess
piece
this movie. You're never going to
Okay.
guess it. It's a good movie, but you're never going to guess it.
Would I guess the 78 one?
Yes, you should know this one. Do you want some more?
Okay.
I forget what the metric is for us giving more hints here.
I need more.
Okay.
Good
Nowadays we would call the 1978 film a franchise film.
Superman.
Yes, original Superman.
Ah!
Otis in Superman. Which I think of as like the quintessential Ned Beatty character in that movie. Kind of bumbling sidekick.
Anytime I think about Ned Beatty, I think about him boiling an egg in Nashville or him giving the speech in Network.
Yeah.
So
He won an Oscar for that speech, basically. That's all it is. It's one monologue he won an Oscar for. Deservedly, but it's one monologue.
what the 2007? Give me a hint.
Man, this is I don't know that it's gonna help here. I'll give you the director. Antoine Fuqua.
Oh, sorry. I just looked up what it was. Lame.
The very weird mid. I mean, I like it, but it's a very weird mid film to be his.
Is Denzel Washington in it?
No, I don't think so. No. Other top billed stars include Mark Wahlberg, Michael Pena, Danny Glover, Elias Koteas, Kate
Shooter?
Mara. Shooter, yes.
What the fuck?
Very, very, yeah. I didn't even remember he was in it.
Shooter?
I didn't see it.
Oh my
It's a very
God.
weird. So actually worth seeing. I'm not a huge Anton Fuqua fan, but it is a worthy movie because it is a weird post George W. Bush movie that looks like it's fucking American Sniper meets Black Sunday or something, and it is actually like a lefty movie. It's a progressive like anti-Iraq war film.
That doesn't surprise me. Like, Wahlberg has unexpected depths despite his. I know he's shitty, but like, ever since I Heart Huckabees, I've taken him more seriously than he probably deserves.
You can't say fuck.
Probably. I feel like you know how like people say that like Ryan O'Neal in
Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon is like, I'm gonna say he's good, but it's like genius casting. I feel like Mark Wahlberg in The Departed that's his Barry Lyndon. That's where someone director said,
he's
"I know exactly
straight
how
up
to use you."
Great. He is straight up great in The Departed.
No, I'm not saying
Okay.
that he's
Everybody's
bad, but
great
I'm
in
saying like
Departed.
somebody knew exactly where to slot him in.
I mean, you're right, but everybody's at the top of their game in that movie, so
That's
it's- But yeah, yeah.
I don't know how
it was
you would have guessed
Huckabees.
that. Shooter's like
I would have never guessed Shooter. Like I wouldn't. I could have gone the rest of my life not thinking about Shooter.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
I feel like there's gonna be a Burt Reynolds movie that fills that role too.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Catherine, let's get him on Burt Reynolds.
Okay, I'm looking. Sorry, I put away my phone already.
You're good.
Okay, let me think about this. I'm not a huge like. I don't have a very deep encyclopedic
Okay,
experience with his filmography other than the big ones.
per
I'm
pattern, I was
very
right about
confident.
3 of these.
Okay. I'm gonna say Smokey and the Bandit,
Correct.
and from the modern end, I'll say Boogie Nights.
Correct.
Okay. So then it's the other two. Man, I don't think one would be Deliverance, but maybe
It is.
it is. Okay.
Yes.
And that leaves the
So-
oddball.
That's the gimme. And yeah, the oddball is really freaking odd.
All right, let me think about it. Is it gonna be give me the year.
1996.
Is it a Carl Hyacin film? Striptease. Demi Moore.
Yes, it is.
Did you get a
Striptease.
perfect score
Well
on?
done.
I never do that. I usually do
Burt
bad at this game.
Reynolds.
I usually do bad at these
Oh
games.
my God.
Yeah.
I do
Oh
not
my
like that movie,
God.
but I like Carl Hyacin novels, so maybe that's why I was thinking of it.
You know, every
Insane.
time I've had the opportunity to watch that movie, I haven't. And now that I've studied Showgirls, I feel like I ought to watch Striptease, but
Should be part of the curriculum, yeah, for Showgirls.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to watch striptease.
But there's so much there for you, Josh.
I'm sure there's so much there. Honestly, if Burt Reynolds is in it, I'm automatically turned off a little bit.
Burt Reynolds is in it, coated. He's walking around in his underwear, coated head to toe in like oil.
I remember
It's very
the trailer.
weird.
Okay, I'm on board.
That was very formative trailer time for me. All right. Hey,
I never fought before that. I never fought before this game. By the way,
you did it.
Never
You're going to keep score on that one.
Yeah. I want to bring
That's
this
in the
one up
books.
to.
We've got one more thing. All right, every episode we give you one more thing, give you our socials. Andrew, you want to show our guest how it's done, then we'll let her do it?
Yeah. So I guess in preparation for this pod, my research has been watching John Boorman movies. Most of the big ones as rewatches, but one movie I've heard a lot about and that I actually considered battered around for this podcast, and ultimately Katharine settled on Deliverance, so I kind of withdrew from that, was Point Blank with Lee Marvin, 1967, I think. And so this is my first time viewing it, and I fucking loved it. It's a great movie. It may be my favorite Boorman film. Instantly. So I instantly know now why a lot of people regard it as not just like a new classic, but actually a very important film at its particular moment in time. It's amazing. I can't say enough about it. So it's pretty much unlike some films that's pretty much available everywhere. You can rent it for $3 from pretty much any service, Amazon, whatever. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but you can pretty much rent it anywhere very cheaply.
There's a Blu-ray and you can get it for cheap.
Absolutely incredible film. I can see why a lot of contemporary male directors from the 90s and 2000s consider it like a canonical film. And I don't disagree. I don't, it's not that I don't have any criticisms, but I guess I wasn't prepared for how much I'd be wowed by it. And I'm somebody who actually likes Excalibur maybe more than every time I rewatch Excalibur, I'm like, oh damn, this is a good movie. I forgot this is a good movie.
I'm
groaning
not
at me.
on board with that one.
Groaning at me. So I guess I was it's the one new Boorman I watched in the past week, and I was blown away by it. So definitely if you haven't seen it before, absolutely catch it out. Stylistically, it's doing some amazing things. It's just if you like just good Lee Marvin growling at people and trying to get revenge for guys fucking him over, and that in that elemental way, it works perfectly fine. Maybe a little slow paced for modern sensibilities, but still very good. But just stylistically, it's doing some absolutely batshit things to the point where I almost want to call it like a proto-acid revenge film. I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like a movie that should have been made 5 years later by Monty Hellman or something. I don't even know how to describe it.
He had his finger on the pulse of what was happening in Europe, and even maybe just a few years behind, but is very of its era, but also has a timeless center to it that's so interesting. That character, the way he wanders through that world and controls that world and doesn't.
The way he shoots Los Angeles is amazing. Every aspect of it, from the minute he arrives at the airport on, it's just a fascinating study in all these different locations around Los Angeles, and then eventually San Francisco as well. But
and has a great Alcatraz moment, and that'll be our next episode, is Escape from Alcatraz. Look at all these connections.
Can't wait to talk about that. Did a lot of research for that one too. Can't wait to talk about it.
Oh, I can't wait either. All right, where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd at AY76, and also my writings at the Take Up and the various Take Up social media accounts, usual spots.
Very cool. Katharine Coldiron, how about you?
If the assignment is to talk about a movie that I watched for this podcast,
it can be anything. It can be a vibe.
Anything.
It can be a recipe if you want. But we're movie nerds like you, so it's usually a movie.
Okay. Well, as I said, I watched all of the movies, not all of the movies in this book, because that would be impossible, but I watched all of the movies that were chaptered in this book. And I know that you just did an episode on it, but Rolling Thunder is a fucking great movie.
Yeah. It really is. And I did not think I would ever, because of the Schrader of it all, because of what it is, because it smells like gym socks. That's a good fucking movie.
Yeah, I was very surprised at how much I loved it, and I kind of I really don't want to repeat what other people said, but I kind of was like, okay, so Tarantino, all of Tarantino's movies are in this movie. Like aside from his westerns, like and his turn toward the western, aside from that, like literally everything is.
But
in
it's
that
also
movie.
kind of a Western too.
It's yeah, a little bit.
They go down to
Ah,
Mexico.
yeah,
They go down to
yeah,
Mexico.
I don't agree with how he pushes on the searchers with Paul Schrader, but anyway, I just want to one up that recommendation. Rolling Thunder's amazing.
Yeah.
I will also recommend a movie that was not in this book, Phantom of the Paradise, which is my favorite De
Oh.
Palma. And the like of De Palma, I'm gonna gesture, and you're not gonna see it if you're listening to this podcast, but like for De Palma, it's like for me, Phantom of the Paradise, everything else. Like I
Josh is our
and
resident like De Palma, like fanboy is too light of a term. He's the De Palma
Well,
my
scholar
guy.
here.
I would love to talk for another 3 hours about De Palma because I have opinions with a
sometime.
capital O, but I just want everyone out there who's like, De Palma doesn't really do anything for me. Watch Phantom of the Paradise. It will probably change your mind.
Great film.
My socials, I'm on Twitter. It's Ferry Frigida, FERRIFRIGIDA. But my last name, Coldiron, is pretty distinctive, so you can just Google that if you want to find me. kcoldiron.com is my website. Junk Film is my book that came out in May. Best place to buy it is on Amazon, but if you want to PayPal me $17, I will happily send you a signed copy and some stickers. So the next thing I want to plug is that a co-editor and I are putting together an anthology of millennial writing on Poltergeist. And we're opening submissions to that in October. We're soliciting right now, and we're going to open general submissions in October, close in January. And we've interested a press in it. It's going forward. We're very excited. If you have a poem, a story, an essay, a comic, a collage, anything about Poltergeist, and you are of the millennial age, we want to hear your opinion. We solicited Andrew because he was the one who kicked off this entire thing on Twitter with this bonkers conversation about Reagan and Poltergeist.
So that's why you're letting me in, because I'm technically like young Gen Xer, so like I sort of violate the rules right out of the gate.
Honorary millennial.
Yeah.
Your opinion. I mean, I'm a really old millennial, so it's fine. The point is, you're twittering about this is basically what started this ball rolling. So we're not doing this anthology without you.
Yay!
Hey,
I'm excited.
This isn't a pitch at all, but that clown that the boy has in his. I had that clown.
The exact same one? The exact
I
same
had
one?
that exact same clown and had the exact same fear about that fucking clown, and then watched the movie.
Like it reached into your Jungian nightmares and pulled it out.
Mother, what is wrong with you?
Oh my
Why did you? I didn't know. I couldn't tell. I've just had it around since before you were born.
Oh,
It wasn't a pitch, but
I mean,
maybe let me think about that.
Do a little flash fiction about that and send it in. I want to hear it. Love it.
All right. And I am also going to PayPal you for a signed copy of your book. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, so my one more thing. Okay, I have a real quick hit for Andrew. Did you tell me to watch A Most Wanted Man? And did you tell me that it has one of the most devastating endings ever?
That sounds exactly like something I would say. I don't know if I sold it to you, but I do agree with that assessment. Yeah.
I knew that you liked it, and I knew that you it was like one of your favorites of the past decade, like somewhere in there.
I think it was one of my top 10 that year. I don't know if I'd say
that year. Yeah. Okay. I was not prepared for that ending.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and I was like, yes, Andrew said devastating ending. Thank you for the warning. It's too bad I didn't remember that. Anyway, second Most Wanted Man. Great movie.
And the trinity of a John le Carre novel adapted by Anton Corbijn and Philip Seymour Hoffman's one of his last roles. Like that, even if nothing else is going right in that movie, it has that trinity.
You're burying the lead, sir.
Nina Hoss, yeah.
And Vicky Creeps.
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot
Nina
of people
Hoss
in that.
and Vicky Creeps
Rachel
in the same
McAdams.
movie.
A lot of people.
Rachel McAdams doing a like Brit German accent.
I don't know what's
Anyway,
going
I
on
just
there.
watched it last night. Did you know Canopy has almost all of Frederick Wiseman's films? That's the great documentarian who's like, I don't know, 90 years old right now. He's got a new film coming out that's going to be playing some fall festivals about a restaurant. It's a 4-hour Frederick Wiseman about a restaurant.
I'm there. You don't need to sell it.
Jumped the fuck off the couch and cheered because I saw the title and I was like, Victor, it's in French. It's a French restaurant, famous 3-star Michelin restaurant. Ooh. I said, oh, that sounds like a restaurant. What if it's a Freddy? I call him Freddy, about a restaurant. And then I looked, I'm so excited. But if you've never seen a Frederick Wiseman, they're sort of definitionally fly on the wall documentaries. He's deserves a lot more credit for his filmmaking than that. But they are that. It's a lot of watching people work, people interact, and even most recently, films like Ex Libris, the New York Public Library, or City Hall, or at Berkeley, even just like people in meetings. I don't know why there's sort of like an antidepressant for me. Maybe it's like because they take me into a different reality, very recognizably my own, or I get to play act as another job, or I don't know what it is. And they also cast a spell on me, but are also expertly crafted films. And if he's made 40 plus features. You can go on Canopy. If your local library has access to Canopy, then you get so many titles a month for free. 40 plus titles are on there. Just pick a subject you might be interested in. There's probably a Frederick Wiseman film about it. Earlier works, I would thumbs up. Law and Order, I think, is probably one of the most important documentaries ever made, and it's made about the Kansas City Police Department. And it is definitely a CAB film. And one of the first ones when I really started to get into this marathon proper was The Store, which is about the flagship Neiman Marcus in Dallas, Texas. And it just follows people working in a Neiman Marcus. And it is fascinating and funny and has just brimming with ideas. And
And these are on Canopy now? Because I know for a long time, availability was the biggest barrier to seeing his films for most people.
Yep. All of his films through Zipporah, his own company, are on Canopy. And
awesome.
They vary in quality based upon, what materials are available. Some of them are direct from tape. But still, no matter what, I've just been, okay, it's Freddy time, just picking one, putting one on. Most recent one I watched was Sinai Field Mission, about the sort of the first exercise that our military had in acting as a liaison between two nations in Sinai, between Egypt and Palestine, and the.
Oh, I'm sure we did a great job with that and didn't muff it at all.
No.
I'm sure, yeah. But it's mostly about the boots on the ground.
Spoilers. I don't need to know how the geopolitics in the last 50 years turned out.
Yeah, but it's mostly about the people and their day-to-day work, and also what they do after work, because they're all just confined to this little area and have this very quickly put together and assembled community. But that one's a deep cut. But yeah, just take a look, and if you see one that sounds interesting, try it out.
I think he's like, his legacy is going to be, he's like one of the great quintessential like American filmmakers as a filmmaker, but also as like a recorder. To me, he has like a Studs. He's a little more removed and cold, but he has like a Studs Terkel vibe, in that he's very interested in the idea of Americans at work and watching them do their jobs in a way that
American systems.
nobody really is anymore. I do recommend At Berkeley as a good starting point too, if you want something a little more recent. If you want something a little more recent, if only because the college campus itself already serves as a great little microcosm for America, and then he's using it as a metaphor for America as a larger place. It's very cool.
And that film in particular is perfect timing on his part, because he comes during a protest against the administration. So the latter half of the film is pretty exciting stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm working my way towards this 6-hour film called Near Death. We'll see if I can handle that. Again, talking to my therapist about that one, see how to do that. And I'm Joshua Ray at Matt Crispy Retinas on social media, and reviews on KMOV. Cool. You can find Andrew, mine, Kayla McCullough, some other folks. You can find our writing at thetake-up.com, and our social media at the Take Up STL. Right? Katharine, thank you so much for coming on. This was an awesome episode, awesome time talking to you. I hope you return and come back, and maybe we'll talk about a hillbilly movie from the 70s.
We need to do a De Palma film, because I want to see a De Palma skeptic against Josh. A skeptic who I'm sure could... And not like I'm offering you up as fodder here, Katharine, but like I actually want to see somebody who can hold their own on De Palma skepticism and Josh going head to head on a...
No, it's too personal for me.
Wrong
No,
way.
I'm kidding.
It's more like, I just don't... I think that his perversions get the best of him, especially in his later career.
What is cinema is not for perversion.
Oh, wow. What a De Palma thing to say.
I too hate modern De Palma. So what can I say? I love De Palma, but I hate all his recent stuff.
I love De Palma, but I hate most of his career. This was a huge pleasure for me. I never get to talk to film colleagues. I talk to book colleagues all the time, but they're often very snotty. So I love talking to film colleagues. And so please have me back as many times as you want.
Oh,
thank you.
Get what you wish for.
We can be snotty too. We're just not necessarily trying it out for this episode. We'll like sandbag you with the snottiness later.
Yeah, you should listen to the Cusp episode. No, don't. That's our second episode. Never mind.
It's kind of crummy.
Don't listen to that one. But next time we're going to be back.
We did 3 hours on certain women, Josh. I think we're a little bit pretentious.
Kelly. Kelly. Yeah. Well, next time we'll be back. We're doing something mostly dissimilar to Kelly Reichardt.
Speaking of manly man films where women aren't allowed.
Yeah.
Don Siegel's Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Escape from Alcatraz. I think I promised it last time, and we had.
That's another World Without Women movie,
it sure is. It sure is.
Like, yeah.
But I'm eager to talk about it.
The worst thing that can happen to you is anal sex.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm eager to talk about it because it's a movie that I love, but I think Tarantino completely whiffs some of the most important things to talk about with it. So,
oh my God, the way he whiffed Taxi Driver. I finally rewatched Taxi Driver and I was like, oh my God, you missed the point completely. And I said, I didn't want to make it a Schrader fest because that's just a sausage fest. But like, so for the record, Scorsese is my very favorite filmmaker. So, and my birthday is in October, so I'm so excited that he's making his first Western for my birthday. So kind of him.
I'm also very excited for Killers of the Flower Moon, but it's not on my birthday. So I guess I'll just have to watch Cape Fear again.
I'm saying this to kind of nudge you into, I could talk about that with you guys if you want.
Ooh.
I have seen all the Scorsese
Cape
movies.
Fear. I'm putting my stake down on Cape Fear for whatever this series is.
What was the movie that you said, Katharine, I think on Twitter a while back, you said it was like your favorite, one of your favorite Scorsese movies, and it's one that I wouldn't even put in like his top half?
I think it was Shutter Island, because nobody liked Shutter Island except me.
No, I like Shutter Island.
Oh, I like Shutter Island.
Was it Aviator? Do you really like Aviator?
Oh, I love The Aviator.
Maybe that was it, because I like Aviator fine, but I don't consider it even like top half Scorsese.
Yeah, no, my two favorites are Gangs of New York and The Aviator, and then
that's it.
Under that is Shutter Island, and then under that is like the famous ones. But like I've never been
Scorsese the way I like Scorsese too. You like the ones that everybody's like, because I'm like Cape Fear, Age of Innocence, like And I'm not trying
Who
to
doesn't
be
like Age of
contrarian.
Innocence? Who doesn't like
Everybody
Age of
likes
Innocence?
Age of Innocence.
That's
I
true.
love that one.
That's true. But
So-
that's not boy sweaty movie, you know?
No.
I
Well,
love it.
so when I rewatched Taxi Driver, I was thinking about it's because it's very lopsided as a movie. Like it doesn't do the 3 act structure especially well, and the way the character developments is happens is weird. And I was like, okay, but has Scorsese made a masterpiece that's actually even all the way through? And Age of Innocence is that one. Like all of his other movies tend to be uneven in
Yeah.
ways that I absolutely love. Like I love messy masterpieces, but Age of Innocence is clean.
Ooh, I'm getting excited for whatever this is. Whatever's happening right now sounds fun.
We're doing Scorsese. We should do Scorsese, I think.
It
Catherine
sounds
gets
like it.
really
Yeah, it
enthusiastic
sounds
when
like
she
it.
talks about him, so like I think that could make good fodder for a cast.
It
Well,
just-
look, listen, they're all getting behind the scenes. You're watching the sausage get made. I don't like that. I didn't like that I said that. We should stop. We have to go.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
night, guys.
It's late. It's late.
Thank you to our partner, Cinema St. Louis. Thank you to Jessica Pierce, our editor. Thank you to Kayla McCullough for that social media. And yeah, we'll be back here in a couple weeks to escape from Alcatraz. Alcatraz. Alcatraz.